For about the past 6 months, you've been using the AVerVision SPC300. Can you briefly explain what types of technology you used before you got the document camera and if there were any inconveniences while dealing with that?
Well, I think as trial attorneys, we all fall back on the tried and true, which is the easel, board, and the pens and paper. The good thing about the pen and paper is it's crash proof. And you don't have to be technologically savvy to use it. I think a lot of us are technologically averse or phobic. So we're all comfortable with that, and we know how to make a point with that. The drawbacks of the easel method depends on how good of an artist you are, how good your handwriting is, and also how much time you have to spend in front of the jury. If you have anything that requires crafting anything of complexity, you need to do that the night before, in your hotel room or wherever, and then present it already drawn up to the jury. Another drawback with that is that it is of limited size and may not be the most effective way of making your point. Another old school method of presenting evidence is through enlargements. We put them on foam core board, and the good part about that is they're there for the duration of the case, and whenever you need it, you pull out the enlargement, put it on the easel board, point to it, and then at the end of the case, it may be presented, introduced into evidence and brought into the jury room. So it's permanent and tangible and big. All of those things are good. The downside with blow-ups are that they are expensive. Each one could be $50 or $100, and most cases these days are fairly document intensive, where you would need or could use enlargements maybe in the dozens. So if each one is $50 or $100, if you have 10 of those, you're down $1,000. So one thing about trying cases successfully is trying them economically and cost effectively. So that means more money for your client at the end of the day if you haven't sunk that all into costs. Having lower costs means more money to your client and a better result, a more cost-effective result. So with blow-ups, they're expensive. Another way of doing things old school is using the overhead projector. And that's the way all of us were trained. We have familiar with the big, heavy, hot overhead projector that we have to wheel into the courtroom. The benefits of that are it's bright, it makes a big image, it's inexpensive to use because the images are put up on the screen and you don't need to pay anything to have that done. The downside to the overhead projector is you have to convert everything you want to show into a transparency. That works well for documents, things where there's black text on a white background, but not so well for anything else. So for example, if you had a photograph that you wanted to enlarge, can't really do that on an overhead effectively. Certainly showing an X-ray, blowing up an X-ray would be very difficult on an overhead projector. If you wanted to show anything that had fine detail, like a hairline fracture or some small thing in an otherwise busy set of a document, the overhead projector would lose that detail, and again, if there's any ambiguity or if the jury isn't seeing what it is you're trying to show them, you're losing. So the overhead has definite drawbacks. I think the other way which people will use to present evidence these days is PowerPoint. That's effective because you can have a bright image, one that has a lot of bells and whistles, if you will, colorful. It can be very attention-getting, but the problem with PowerPoint is you're stuck to a script. And if you know what it is you want to show and in the order you want to show it, that's okay. But if there's anything that's happened, say in the day before you made the PowerPoint presentation that requires cutting or editing, or perhaps there's something you don't want to bring in, you don't have the flexibility or the spontaneity to be able to change that on the fly or in the heat of court. So you're left with showing your slides in the sequence that you made them, whenever you made them, and it's difficult to try to change that or keep the jury from seeing something you may not want them to see while it's actually happening.